Hello, everybody, and welcome to this All You Need is a Ball webinar, where I'm delighted to be joined by Jeff DeCelles, one of the main leaders of the grassroots soccer movement across Africa and many other continents now as well. Their work is spreading. Thank you very much for joining me today, Jeff. We'll give you some time to tell your story shortly. So Jeff is the technical director for the curriculum of grassroots soccer and also the founder of Ragball International. We've got some very interesting stories and exciting updates on the work that they're doing, as I said, across Africa, and open source work as well for the rest of the world to learn from. Very much best practice in industry of how football can be used as a vehicle to educate. So yeah, without me trying to overtalk that, I'm going to let the specialists do what they do best. So Jeff, thank you very much again for your time. To begin with, maybe could you just introduce a bit about what grassroots soccer is, and then your personal journey, how you got involved.
Great, yeah, thanks so much, Dan. So Grassroots Soccer is an adolescent health organization. We got started in 2002 in Zimbabwe. And at that time, we were really focused on preventing the spread of HIV and using football as a platform. So we were founded by professional footballers and wanted to use the influence of professional footballers to reach out to young people and give them messaging in a way that they probably weren't getting in school. Because at that time, HIV and AIDS was really ravaging Southern Africa, especially Zimbabwe, and we were in Bulawayo, and that's kind of where it started. We invested even initially in evaluation and research, so trying to prove an impact, even from those early days when grassroots soccer was just a concept. We got a very small Gates grant. I think it was maybe the smallest Gates grant ever given. I think it was like $6,000 or something to do a whole research study, and we thought we were rich at the time. We're like, $6,000, how are we going to spend all this? But we did put it all into research, and we found some encouraging results that young people were learning about HIV, about the modes of transmission, protective behaviors, and that those gains were sustained. So they basically kept remembering, they remembered the information 6 months later. So kind of based on those findings, we wanted to scale, we wanted to make the program bigger. There's only a finite number of famous professional footballers though. So we wanted to see if the same impact could be had with other types of role models, peer educators, coaches, teachers. And thankfully, through more research, we found that it could be delivered through a number of mechanisms. So based on those findings and a number of other research studies that we continued to conduct, we were able to grow the organization, growing from Bulawayo to Zimbabwe. Now have a presence in throughout Zimbabwe, Zambia, and South Africa. That's where we directly implement, and then we provide technical assistance in the forms of curriculum development, monitoring, evaluation, and training to about 50 other countries. And as we grew in size, from a couple dirtbag soccer players in Zimbabwe, in Bulawayo, Zimbabwe, to more than 50 countries, the breadth of what we do also grew. So again, through research, we found that this approach of using sport as a hook, using sport-based activities, we could do a lot more than just work in HIV. So we now are an adolescent health organization. The bulk of our work is still in sexual and reproductive health, but we've branched out. We're doing a lot in mental health now, in malaria, and now on COVID-19 as well. So again, I think and probably people watching this, sport can just be such an amazing platform to bring young people in. And thankfully, we've been able to see kind of how we're able to grow from HIV just to keep up with the times and make sure we're addressing adolescent health more broadly.
It's amazing, and it really is. You know, it's not you very humbly introduced there, I think, but very much, you know, the GRS, the grassroots soccer curriculum, is so widely regarded as, you know, best in field. Really, it's phenomenal how many countries are looking to you for that guidance based on the rich heritage you've had with using football as that tool. So it's credit to you. So just going back to Zimbabwe, you know, why Zimbabwe? You mentioned the HIV link there and the relevance to the cause, but what was the call to going over there to base it from there?
So we had 4 founders, a Zimbabwean guy, a Scottish guy, and 2 Americans.
There's a joke in there somewhere, surely.
Yeah, they all enter Zimbabwe. They all enter a bar in Zimbabwe. And they were all playing professionally there.
Right.
And kind of that was the impetus. And in Bulawayo, it's an incredible place. I've never seen such a football crazy town. The level of football is so high. And in Bulawayo, you know, Highlanders is the main team there. If Highlanders loses on a Sunday, like Monday, the town is mourning. Yeah. If they win, you can just feel the excitement on the street. So, you know, if there was one place to test, you know, where you could use football to have a positive impact, it would be Bulawayo. It's just in the culture.
Great. Thank you for that. That's really good, I'm sure, for people to learn that foundation. What about you then, on a personal level? What paths? How did you get involved in this initially? What was your pathway before? So, you know, how did you become a director now of this amazing curriculum and further content that you keep writing?
Yeah, well, thank you. So I had done similar work when I was an undergraduate student at University of Vermont. I'd worked in the Caribbean, in the Dominican Republic, using football to bring Haitians and Dominicans together. There's a lot of racial tension traditionally between Haitians and Dominicans, and I just found, you know, using football, getting people playing was helpful. And, you know, didn't think too much beyond that, but ended up turning that into an organization and just started opening my eyes what football could do. By chance, I was hitchhiking in St. John in the U.S. Virgin Islands, and a guy picked me up, and he had a Boston accent, so he sounded like me, so we were from the same part of the world. And we started training together, and he told me, I told him about the work I'd been doing in the Caribbean, and he said, my friends are starting this thing called Grassroot Soccer. And it was very much just a concept at this point. So I picked up the phone, and I called to Tommy Clark, who's now our CEO at Grassroot Soccer. I said, hey, you're starting this thing, Grassroot Soccer. I want to come check it out. At that point, I was like 20 years old. And he said, yeah, come over to Zimbabwe. I wrote a grant, I think, a really small grant that bought me a ticket over to Zimbabwe, and just started trying out all these games, working with young people. At that point, we were in the classroom working with kids along with the professional players every day. And it just, that on top of training with the team and playing every day, in Zimbabwe, it just kind of blew me away.
Good family.
Yeah. At that point, I was still studying. So I went back. I said, I'm going to graduate early. This is way too much fun to be stuck in school looking at books. So I went back, finished my last semester, and then came right back to Zimbabwe, and kept working. I've been with the organization since then. In the meantime, I've done a couple other things. I went and got my master's in education. I just finished my doctorate in public health, and I was able to start a side project called Ragball International, which is similar to a grassroots soccer approach, using football and using football as a hook, but aimed at financial education. So everywhere I'd go in Africa, I'd get one of these handmade footballs, made from recycled materials. And I just thought they were the most amazing things. And they were filling up my house. It was kind of like a museum. And a couple of friends and I, we had the idea, this is something pretty unique and something marketable. So we started a project where we would actually sell these handmade footballs, and with that money, return it to the young people that made the football, and put them through some financial education training. So financial education that's fun, that's football based, and again, always using soccer as that hook. And yeah, so very much just using a grassroots soccer methodology, what we learned in health, applying to financial education. And yeah, we sold about 10,000 of those balls. And the program continues to grow, which is great.
I was going to say that's still carrying on now, right? That's still very much.
It is. I mean, currently it seems like most things in the world, it's on hold. But it has grown. It's been adopted by a couple of organizations in South Africa, and they make the balls and sell them on their own and support the funding of their own program.
Amazing. So if you look below this video, there's going to be links to all of this, so you can explore this further and check out that. It's well worth looking into. Along with the next part, which I wanted to ask you more about, which is your response to this COVID outbreak, and obviously the restrictions placed on organizations such as yours around the world who are usually face-to-face contact with kids and really helping them change their lives and communities. How did you react? And yeah, tell us a bit about the GRS response to that.
Yeah, I think similar to everyone, I kind of wake up. So this was in late February, early March, and you wake up and kind of look at your phone and check the news, and just couldn't believe how much worse everything had gotten overnight. Mm-hmm. And I was traveling at the time. I was in Scotland working with Aberdeen Football Club, and then in Rwanda working with some partners. And I just had a couple conversations with other folks from Grassroots Soccer saying, first, hey, I think we should maybe develop 1 or 2 sessions on COVID-19. And that quickly progressed to drop everything. We need to write something pretty urgently. We need to contribute to stopping the spread here. So very quickly, we decided that was a priority to develop a COVID-19 curriculum, which is tricky because the pandemic was changing so fast. So it was changing so fast, and everything about grassroots soccer is about interpersonal relations, about playing games, it's being close with people. So we had to develop something really fast that could be really adaptable. And then we also wanted to make it open source. For Grassroots Soccer's first time ever, make something that's available to anyone, which is something we've always wanted to do, but it was never the right opportunity. So, generally we'll take, sometimes 3 to 6 months to write a curriculum. We basically in about a week had to pull together a curriculum on a brand new topic that could work anywhere in the world, and it could work remotely. Yeah. So thankfully we work with some fantastic partners, kind of our curriculum advisory team, and just wonderful people from groups like Waves for Change, Aberdeen Football Club, University of North Carolina, and some independent consultants. Basically called them up and said, hey, we want to write this curriculum. We don't have any money for it, and we need feedback now. And thankfully, they agreed to those terrible conditions. And what we came up with was a pretty nice product. So it's comprised of three sessions. One on comprehensive knowledge on COVID-19, and trying to bust some common myths and misconceptions about the virus, but really very, very basic knowledge. The next is an activity on hand washing. So it's kind of like a Simon Says type game on hand washing, where you act out washing your hands for 20 seconds, and a trick. We actually did this activity a number of years ago in a research study. So a trick is to sing a song while you wash your hands. So having young people sing happy birthday or the football song, ole, 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 ole. And yeah, and then and the number of those other exercises, you know, research showed that a lot of people do wash their hands, but then they just wipe it on their dirty shirt. So drying your hands in the air, they do jumping jacks. So it's an interactive, very fun game. And we did have some evidence behind it that it works. And then the third activity is aimed at mental well-being. So our advisors immediately told us, yes, you know, you can get information across, you can promote hand washing, but everybody, and especially adolescents, are really going to pay a toll in mental well-being. So we put together some really basic breathing exercises and mindfulness exercises that we've been trying out that could fit in. So in those 3 sessions, there's guidelines about how they can work in a, you know, in a normal or pre-COVID world when we can interact and be face-to-face. There's guidelines about how to do it sort of in this in-between space where there was social distancing, but groups are still allowed to gather. And that seems like where we're headed now. And then also guidelines on how it can be facilitated either through messaging, through text messaging, SMS or WhatsApp, or in some instances, video conference. And sometimes parents can facilitate with their kids. So obviously in most of the places we work, video conference is not applicable, but some partners in, you know, in Scotland or Australia or the US have been able to integrate it that way. So the response was encouraging.
The feedback's been great. Yeah,
it has been great. And again, this was our first time using open source, so didn't really know what to expect. You know, my biggest fear is that it would just land with a thud and we get one download. It'd just be like my mom downloading it, you know. But fortunately, there really was a good response. So we made it open source and we're able to track the downloads, which is a great step too. So it's been downloaded over 500 times from organizations throughout the world. And what's more encouraging is just the way that people have been using it. I mean, again, it's not a script, it is a tool. And people have used it in such creative ways that I couldn't have imagined. You know, there are three governments in Africa that are adopting it or integrating it into their national curriculum. And then there are, you know, I got a message from a single orphanage in Angola, and they recorded a hand washing anthem that they used the curriculum to make. And yeah, you know, another government is filming the curriculum using famous comedians and putting it on national TV. And then you know, got a message from a group in Malawi, and there's something in the curriculum about how to celebrate without touching. And there was an example there about doing an air 5 from 6 feet away. And like, we love doing the air 5. So it's been amazing how people have used it both on the big and like the really micro individual scale. The challenge is, you know, how do we evaluate that? You know, we're very much used to doing pre and post tests, looking at behavior change. Now we're trying to look at things like number of downloads. What does that even mean? Broadcast reach, so programs using the curriculum over radio and TV. How do we measure that? So we've got a lot of learning to do, and things are moving rapidly, but as challenging as this time has been, it's also been really exciting to move so fast at something and learn so much so quickly.
So good to hear. And I think, like, exactly as you said, it's something that you've been on your mind for a while, you know, working with open source and sort of sharing more of those resources. It does seem a crime to me, or it has seemed a crime, that there's so many great things going on around Africa in particular. You know, over half of the organizations who use football for social change are based in the continent of Africa, and yet nobody in football really knows that. Nobody in corporate football certainly does. So it's like, how do you get that message out and get more supporters and get more media to pick it up? And I think it starts by just making it more accessible, surely. You know, it's not rocket science, but it's brilliant that you've done it. I think you've led the way, and hopefully there'll be more to come in the future from that as well. Is that the plan?
Yeah, so now we're assessing the curriculum. We are getting feedback from partners, you know, because we wrote it so quickly. There's bound to be stuff in there that just doesn't work. And the only way to find that out is to talk to people that have been using it. So we're doing interviews There have been some surveys administered, so we'll get some quantitative feedback. Then also advisors, people at UNICEF, World Health Organization, reviewing the curriculum and pointing out ways that it can be improved. And then just trying to keep it up to date. So when we wrote the curriculum, no one was really talking about masks. That, I mean, that's a glaring hole right now. So we've got to include that. Social distancing guidelines have changed. Testing availability and guidelines have been changed. So so that'll definitely be in the next round. And the way things are changing, there'll certainly be a number of iterations of this curriculum.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you, Jeff, for all of that insight. As I said to everyone, again, just to reiterate, please do check out the links below. And if you've got any specific questions, he's not impossible to find here, is Jeff. But do feel free to ask the questions, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And otherwise, for now, I've really enjoyed catching up with you. It's been a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, hopefully we can draw some more attention to the work that you guys are doing, and spread that message further to more organizations and more young people.
Wonderful. I appreciate it, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Not at all. No, thanks for your time. And for everyone else, stay safe, and remember, all you need is a ball.